We're on. Hey, everybody, welcome back to some more early morning barking, talking about MPD and BPD by somebody that has both. I said them the wrong way around then, and that has totally thrown me. Today is a bit of a special episode. I'm joined by the Nameless Narcissist. Go and check out his YouTube channel. We've just done a video about MPD traits, and you can find that on his channel. But now we're going to talk about BPD traits. Yeah. So do you know what? Before we start, do you want to tell people about your channel and that sort of thing? I forgot to do that.
You're good. By the way, as you were talking, I want to point out that part of my intro was kind of inspired by yours, like the cadence and stuff, especially in terms of like how I present it. Yeah, it's that MPD copying things from people you admire and shit. But yeah, so I do a channel on pathological narcissism. I try to talk about like how I personally experience things, like my inner monologue, right? And not only that, but I also reference a lot of studies and everything to like kind of back up what I say. I actually started it because I was a fucking mess. Like about 8 months ago, I want to say, lost a lot of people, and I just need somewhere to vent and get attention. But it's turned into something more than that now, where I help people, weirdly enough. Jesus Christ. But yeah, that's basically what I'm about.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a similar story. We all just need somewhere to vent, and here we are. That's it.
Honestly.
So the this article describes them as 9 symptoms of BPD. That's not really right. The 9 markers of BPD. As with these, you've got to have 5, and then you've got BPD. I was all 9 at one point. Things have significantly improved for me. But we'll start off at the top. The one that always gets listed first is fear of abandonment.
Fear of abandonment. Oh, that's the first one for most of these?
Yeah, that's the one that most people will have this one.
Yeah,
to a certain extent.
I mean, fucking that's just a ClusterB thing in general, ain't it? It's like,
yeah.
Because I experience that out the ass, but I think I deal with it in a different way, because usually I'm more like, I will abandon you first. Like, you weren't worth it anyway. Stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. That is totally a thing that we do. That if you're going to be abandoned, you abandon somebody before they do it. I've done that. I've seen other people do that. It is totally it's one of the most obvious things. And it's, do you know what? And that's usually how relationships end. Like, you are gonna break up with me, so I'm gonna do it first.
So in relationships, I don't do it in relationships. I do it with like friendships way more. In relationships, usually I get I guess I devalue them, so to speak, and I eventually get in my head being like, oh man, like this person isn't perfect for me. My soulmate's still out there. I can do better, whatever. And it's not like a condescending feeling. It's like a genuine anxiety.
Yeah.
And I kind of, a lot of the times I kind of manipulate them into breaking up with me. And there was one time though, that this girl who I was really into, she ignored me for a few days while we were like involved. I literally drove to Washington, D.C. from Ohio. I'm not sure how familiar you are with like U.S. geography, but just
quite a drive.
It was about 5 hours, and it was literally, and I stayed with one of my female friends, literally to show her like, oh yeah, I don't fucking need you. I can like, I'll do whatever fuck I didn't tell her. I just sent her a Snapchat of me there. And I was like, I don't fucking need you. Don't feel so secure in this relationship that you think you can ignore me for a few days. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a lot of like classic fear of abandonment stuff in there. And it's kind of like we were just talking about with the MPD. It's the, I don't want that anymore. It's rubbish. You know, but with the fear of abandonment, we tend to like cling on to people. It's this, please don't leave me. And you just become like a burden on people, because you are so desperate that they're going to leave that you become that little lost puppy that always wants attention. Please reinforce that you're not going to leave. Please pat me on the head. Tell me everything's going to be okay and that you're not going anywhere. And it can sort of extend all over the place. Like you feel whenever somebody's just stopping doing something with you that they're abandoning you, you know.
I mean, that's so interesting because it's like, it's the same fear, right? But I have such a different way of like viewing it where, because I will never like, how do I put it? Like the frantic efforts to avoid abandonment, I do not engage in at all. I'm never like, no, please don't leave me or anything like that. I'm like, just like, yeah, I don't like, whatever, you're around or you're not. I never show it. Like, or at least I try
Yeah.
not to. It's like the same issue, but different ways of coping with it, I feel like.
That's kind of the point I'm trying to get to though with it, or kind of have gotten to, because you don't want to show it. And I think with it, with a lot of it, the more you don't show it, the more it sort of goes away, because you start to realize that people aren't abandoning you. You have to tap into the empathy with it and sort of come up with reasons for people doing things that aren't directly doing something to you, you know, because that's what you take it personally.
Yeah.
You know, if your friend moves away because they've got a new job, they're not moving away because they've got a new job. They're leaving you. You take that personally, and it makes everything just so painful and horrible and all of that.
I literally like, I once watched a therapist talk about, well, not a therapist, but like a professional on personality disorders talk about the clusters and stuff. And he described ClusterB as the self-centered cluster. And I was like,
Yeah.
fucking asshole, how dare you? How dare you say that about my cluster? But eventually I was like, I started thinking about it. And I was like, fuck. He is right. We think everything has this direct, like, it pertains to us in such a direct way. When
Yeah.
in reality, it's like half the things that people do, like we aren't even being considered as a factor.
Yeah. And so, right. So this one for me ties in with the narcissism as well, because of course people are doing things to me because I would do things to people, and you get all of that element of it. And it runs you know, wanting someone else's approval and someone else's attention and all of that to that degree runs contrary to MPD and the whole feeling of brilliance and superiority. And it's like, yeah, but don't leave me. I am the greatest thing in the world that there ever was, but please don't leave me on my own. I don't like that. The two things butt heads so often. And so I'm kind of not surprised that you know, with just the MPD, it just comes out in a different way, because you're able to like bat off that desire for other people as much.
It's like I'm way more able to convince myself of my not needing other people. That like I can take care of myself. I don't need anybody. Whatever.
Exactly.
And like deep down, or when I get really drunk, I'll be like, oh man, I miss them so much. What did I do? But it does not often.
No. And it all leads, I mean, the next one is unstable relationships. People with, as I said, people with BPD tend to have relationships that are intense and short-lived. Yeah. But this, right. There's so much to that one. Just you throw that out there, just unstable relationships. Pick a kind of relationship, pick a way it can be unstable. And there's got to be a multifaceted ClusterB thing, because we all have unstable relationships, don't we? Where's the narcissist with the stable relationship? How is that not also an MPD marker?
Well, I will say that, like, in my experience, it's not so much that the entire relationship is unstable. It's like for like years or months, more like, okay, probably months. It'll be like stable, fine. And then one day, everything in me will boil up and I will just like rage out at somebody, and that's the end of the relationship, more or less. And maybe we can rekindle after that, which should make a pattern of instability. But I would say that, like, in general, we tend to have more, like, we have longer periods of stability, but it always ends the same way.
It does. It does. But I don't know, maybe I'm speaking, I don't know. It's difficult for me to pull apart what comes from where in terms of my own experiences. And I know that I had all my relationships until fairly recently were unstable, but some of it was for MPD related reasons.
Yeah.
You know, that person that crossed me, that person that doesn't make me look as good by association anymore, all these other things. So it was like, yeah, there's unstable, there's all the fear of abandonment stuff coming on, but then there's all the reasons from MPD to have unstable relationships as well. So it just became so much, and they help each other out so much.
It sounds like that, like the like while I like hiding the self and all that, like I'll have an issue with somebody or they'll do something that I hate and I'll like shove it down and hide it until basically it bursts out because I don't want them to feel like, I don't want people to see that I'm affected by the stupid stuff that they're doing. But then for you, it feels like it triggers like splitting more or less.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think again, that was something that the MPD made worse, because I was already, you're looking for reasons to be better than someone and for reasons that someone has done something to you anyway.
Yeah.
And so when you get this reinforcement coming along, the two things just take it and go with it. And it's that whole, you don't deserve love, they don't want you there anyway, you're just a burden on them. And then something comes along that says, yeah, and they're shit and you don't need them, you're better than them anyway, and suddenly you've got no friends.
That's so interesting because like the because like when I'm like splitting, because like narcissists to some degree do split in certain ways, I would say.
Yeah.
In my head, if I split on somebody, I'm never like, oh man, like I didn't deserve them or anything like that. I'm just like, they fucking betrayed me. They deserve whatever the hell is coming to them, more or less.
Yeah. No, we're living with in the BPD world, we're living with the crushing fear that no one really likes us anyway. Like all my friends are only my friends because they're putting up with me. They're not horrible people, so they don't want to just tell me to go away or something.
Yeah.
And they're probably, do you know what? They've probably all got a WhatsApp group that's all of them except me. And they use that to arrange days out and special events that I don't know about. And that constant paranoia.
Okay, I do have that 100%. It's funny though, because like I am never like, oh, they hate me, they don't like, well, okay, I can be like that sometimes, but it's always more of like they don't know the real me. I feel like they only like the facade, and I am always trying to hide my bad parts, and I feel like nobody will ever accept those. And so when somebody tells me, like literally people will like look me in the people try to look me in the eyes and tell me that, oh, I love you, you're like great, whatever. And I remember once habitually I will look away and I realized that I did it. And like this woman had to like force my head looking at her so that like she could say that to me and me look into her eyes, because I just didn't believe it. I just felt shame because I felt like I was tricking her.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been there. It's that fit. And especially once you've lived your life a bit, you've had people tell you they love you and things didn't work out for whatever reason. And you start to build up this jaded sort of, well, that other person said they loved me.
Oh yeah.
Whatever.
I feel,
you know,
it's like, oh, you love me? Like, well, everybody else realizes eventually that I'm a piece of shit and they leave me. So like, why are you different? What makes you think you're different? The only exception to that ever, ironically, was with my borderline ex, actually.
Right.
It was like, oh, like she literally said to me the thing that like fucking the best statement I ever heard, the only statement in my life that's ever touched me. She said, I know that you hide parts of yourself from me, but I feel like I know you and I still love you for all of those things. And I almost cried. Like, holy shit. Best thing I ever heard in my life.
Yeah. It's difficult. There's so much darkness in there sometimes. And it's so scary to let it out, because it's some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
You know, no wonder we have unstable relationships. And it's all kinds of relationships. It's friendships, family, all kinds of things. And I've witnessed people and family members just cut each other out of their lives. Just like, you've done that, oh, we're done then. You know, there are some, it's difficult to know how much personal detail to go into, but you know, from previous generations of our family, there were, you know, sort of like, there was a reason I didn't see grandma from being a young age. and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's horrible. But that does lead us to the third one, which I think this is the unclear or shifting self-image
Yeah.
is just pivotal in all of it. If you know who you are, you don't need as much other people. I still think we need other people. I don't like the idea of a life alone and isolated, thinking, well, I'm fine on my. There's something inherently sad about that to me.
Yeah.
I think we do need other people, but we don't necessarily, we shouldn't need their approval and their just their approval, their affirmation. We
Yeah.
don't need them to validate us, you know. And yet with that unclear or shifting self-image, yeah, we do need that validation. As you said, how do we know who we are without other people?
Because that's the thing for me. It's like, because like I don't. I'm curious if you experienced this. I once watched this lecture from this. I think it was Deanna Diamond. She was some expert on personality disorders, and she said the best way to tell who is a borderline is put a paper in front of them and say, give a description of who you are. And like some borderlines will be like, what the fuck do you mean? I have no fucking idea. Holy shit. Like what are you making me do? And for me, it's a little bit different because I know who I am. I just feel fake. And if I were to look deep in myself, who I really am, I have no fucking clue. But like I can tell all the traits of on the outside being like, oh, well, I don't know. I know my favorite foods. I know I like animals. I like history. I like whatever the fuck. I'm an extrovert, stuff like that. I can lift this off very surface level stuff. But deep down, who am I? No idea.
No. See, I would struggle on the surface level stuff.
That's interesting. Okay.
Right. Because what you're doing is generally people with BPD have a people pleasing element because of that fear of abandonment, right? Abandonment,
Okay.
right? We want to please you. The answer to your question is whatever you want it to be. What do we like? What do you want me to like? You know, where should we go to eat? Well, where do you want to go to eat? I want you to be happy. That kind of thing. And so you extend that to like every aspect of life. Like, what clothes should I wear? What trainers should I buy? What food should I eat? What games should I play? Everything. And eventually you don't know the answer to these things. You need to be told what they are. You don't have the answer to what do I want, because it needs to be something that pleases somebody else. And if that person isn't there to be pleased, I can't answer that question. I don't know what I like.
That is so fucking interesting. Holy shit. So that's like, so basically you are trying to find your identity in other people or less so. Like,
well, no, it's like, it's like you're so worried about being something that other people will like that you just abandon anything else. Because it doesn't matter what I am, really. People might not like that. I should make myself into the thing that the person that I want to like me wants me to be.
Oh my gosh. Okay, interesting. So like the amount that like your identity disturbance ties into a fear of abandonment to me is fascinating to me, because it's like, oh, I don't want to be abandoned, so I'll be whatever you want me to be. I once read a like Reddit post saying how this woman would just like was willing to have sexual relationships with somebody just because she felt like she had to, like she was like to like please them effectively, like they're her friend, and so she is obligated to do that. And I was like, whoa, that's fucking insane.
That stuff like that is a very common thing.
Yeah.
You know, and of course there are a lot of social constructs that govern the type of people that can get away and do that sort of thing, but using sex and sexuality to keep people around, to keep them in your life, is very common because it's easy, you know. So yeah, that's not surprising at all.
That's really interesting. My gosh. Because like for me, like, especially with like sex and stuff, it's like, oh, this is making me feel better because like I feel like I'm worthy if somebody's is willing to have a sex with me, more or less. I'm like, oh, I am attractive, I am desirable because they're willing to have sex with me. And when it comes to other people, my identity being based around them, it's always like, it's only like, oh, you're telling me I'm like this. This confirms my persona. This confirms who I am presenting. So like looking at it from the perspective of I want to be I am who you want me to be. Whole different thing for me. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And oddly for me, that it comes out less in the realm of sex. Sex for me is very in the MPD camp. There's very much like status and attractiveness and so many other elements that are tied up in that. And the fear of abandonment stuff tends to be in the more friendshipy side of things, and even the non-sexual elements of a romantic relationship. And it kind of, the MPD separates that other bit off to a certain extent, which I don't know how I feel about.
Sorry, was that? Oh,
yeah. I said, yeah.
I'm kind of curious because one of my biggest issues when it comes to sex is that like, and I'm not sure if this is just a me thing or it's an MPD thing, but because sex is inherently vulnerable, I have a hard time like not feeling shame around it. Like I will have sex with somebody and it killed a relationship once where I was like, oh man, I am disgusting. Why did I even like engage in some of those behaviors? And I projected that onto them. I was like, oh, they think I'm fucking horrible and disgusting because I basically had sex with them. I felt like I almost defiled them in a way. I'm kind of curious if you experienced something like that or not.
I haven't experienced anything like that. Yeah, sex. That's a whole other video on its own.
I feel like the BPD really affects how you deal with vulnerability a lot more than it does with me, obviously.
It does, and I think we have some things that are the same, and I think that some things the BPD and the MPD just get mixed up and do all kinds of things with it. There is definitely, God, no, we'll come back to that another day. That's one of those that could go on just a massive tangent and become far too weird. But yeah, it's definitely an area where MPD rules, and that helps me so much with like confidence and self-belief. How much of it's a front, I don't know, but hey, whatever works. Where were we? Impulsive self-destructive behaviors. Okay, it kind of ties into the last thing. Yeah.
This one I relate to 100%. This is a definite BPD trait of mine.
Yeah. This is where my do it tomorrow thing comes from, because so many dumb things. There are so many things that seem like a good idea at the time. There are just so many things like that, and so few of them really are.
Literally, I saw a tweet about you saying that you got an iPhone impulsively. I was like, oh, well, there's some of that right there.
You don't understand. People didn't understand how impulsively. I filmed that video on one phone and posted it from the new phone. There were minutes in between. It just happened. And now I have to pay for it. That's the fun bit. But this applies to like so many. So right, tattoos, hair colors.
That's also part of the identity disturbance, I think.
Yeah. Oh, totally is. And so it's when you're feeling down about the identity disturbance thing and you get into it, right? I'm going to do something about it. I need green hair. This needs to be the thing. This is the answer to this. I need to do this now. And then
literally, literally, it was so funny because on your stream, you were like talking about like having one-on-ones potentially. And you were like, and you said, what did you say? You were like, oh, if somebody calls her, like, I don't know who I am. I think I need blue hair. And like, I thought that was the funniest thing in the fucking world, because that's such
Yeah.
like borderline impulsivity and identity disturbance, like conceptualized.
So many of us, when you and I didn't realize how bad this was till I sort of started making the videos and started just being in contact with the wider BPD community at large.
Yeah.
And just when you like just scroll some Twitter icons and Instagram profile pictures and that kind of thing, most of us have got some sort of hair coloring, body piercing, tattoo, alternative look, whatever. I'm not in any way passing judgment on any of that, but what I'm saying is that I'm willing to bet that a lot of these things came from a very impulsive, I need this. And now we have this.
It's super, because like my self-destructive behaviors are way more like they're not identity related, I guess you could say. They're way more like, oh, like somebody like, it's like, I can't go out tonight, I'm lacking money, and somebody is like, oh, what if you did? And I'm like, okay, yes, sensation seeking. Or recklessly driving. I'm like I remember times I've literally been in my car and like get pissed off about something, and I literally just like slam on like the gas, just being like, I just need to like experience I don't know, experience something, I guess. It's hard for me to say. Yeah. Or just self-destructing in relationships, even. Like, I know that I shouldn't, but I just need to get this aggression out. And I blow up on somebody just impulsively.
Yeah.
It is constant, just the impulsive behaviors that are to a, like, I have a hard time figuring out how much of that is sensation seeking and how much of it is subconsciously self-destructive. Right. Is what I think that like I can't figure out.
Yeah, it's the self-destructive behaviors. We tend to do all kinds of things. I mean, this article I've got here, like drive recklessly, is on there. Shoplifting, engage in risky sex, drugs and alcohol, binge eating. Yeah, I've been there on all of those. I've actually never shoplifted. Really? I get a lot of people comment and say things, I shoplift to get the buzz out of it. A lot of people say that. And I've just never done that. I am far too terrified of getting caught.
Okay, all same, but like I was like horrified, but also I had 2 phases in my life where that was like really a thing I did. The first one was like, oh, I want to steal things because I think it's funny, and that like I have and like it's like a story. You know what I mean? Yeah. I literally actually, one second, I'm gonna move into my I'm gonna move into my living room to show off one of the things I stole. But literally I like once I went to a national park, and they were building a conservation center. I stole the blueprints because I thought it would be a good story. Oh wow. Let me flip the camera real quick. I don't know how to. Oh fuck. Here we go.
Oh right. Okay.
Still a sewer sign. Oh my god. It's still dirty as hell.
Yeah, see, now I was just talking about shoplifting. If we're gonna get onto signs, then that's an entirely different conversation.
I once stole a banner from my school that said, "Don't drink and drive," and I fucking stole it and put it up in my house for a while.
Yeah. See, is this right? This might be different for American college students, but for British university students, stealing road signs and other road-related paraphernalia while drunk on a night out is kind of a traditional thing. Yeah. And I very much remember one day back in my days in Hull, waking up blurry-eyed, wandering into my living room and suddenly realizing that there in the living room was an entire set of roadworks. There were barriers, there were cones, there were some traffic lights, there were the little orange flashing lights they put on top of the cones. The whole fucking thing, apart from road and a hole in the ground, was there in my, and you just look at it and think, I don't remember where that came from, but it is most definitely there.
Wait, like when you say barriers, you mean like the cement ones?
No, just the
Okay.
sort of metal supports with plastic reflective bars that go
Yeah.
across.
I was
No,
like, holy shit, how did you manage to get that into the car?
I don't know. And I don't remember stealing that much of it. But that was a very long time ago, and probably no legal services should approach me about that or anything
Well,
like that.
yeah,
No,
hopefully the statute of limitations applies to that right
yeah,
now.
that's
My
it. But that was dumb college stuff. I've never stolen from shops. That's definitely a thing.
my well, two things. One, my senior prank was stealing a bunch of road work stuff and blocking off the entrances to my school, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
But the other time that I like really got into like committing crime in terms of like stealing and stuff is when I was involved with somebody who had MPD and ASPD, and like it's funny like because that portion of my life was just drunk driving, using drugs, fucking like stealing shit all the time, just because I was very easily influenced by her and was like,
Yeah.
this is hilarious, this is a good time. I would say I regret it, but I don't.
I see it as all positive life experience. It's just,
Exactly.
we do it for the story, like you say, and now I've got stories. It's all in good fun, and whole city council are fine now without their roadworks. Anyway, self-harm. Right. This is the one that I don't think really has any direct NPD link, because by self-harm we're talking about like physical self-harm, and I think NPD is one of the ones that sort of protects you from those feelings.
This is probably one of the most prominent BPD traits that I definitely have.
Right.
Especially when I fell into like a really like deep depression over my over like losing a lot of people. Like this isn't a pervasive behavior for me, but when I'm low, it becomes very prevalent. Like, I mean, hell, when I was in high school, I was engaging in it like a lot. And the only reason I stopped is because I saw a tendon in my arm. And I was like,
shit,
all right, I'm done. That was growth.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, I never, the self-harm was never a thing. I did have, a lot of suicidal ideation.
Oh,
there was a lot of finding myself stood on the top of car parks and that sort of thing. I never went as far as doing anything that I could say qualifies me as having attempted suicide. But if there's one step back from that, I was there a lot.
Yeah.
And that came out of for
suicide
me,
attempt.
Yeah. Like, you get as far as perhaps starting to plan things and think things through and starting to Google stuff. And God, you're hitting a low when Google sends up a page that says, "You all right? Here's a number to call." And it does do that, as does Facebook, actually. If you start posting,
trust me, I know.
Yeah. And that is one of those, oh no, I am at a low point here. Google's asking me if I'm all right.
Jeff Bezos cares, apparently.
Exactly. And so for me, it was actually my suicidal ideation wasn't about wanting to die. It was about wanting to not feel how I felt and feeling like that was the only way out of it.
Because interesting, because like mine was way more like a self-hate and also a defiance of the people around me. It was like, I'm a fucking awful fucking person. I need to basically end myself. And also I want everybody to see that it was like, how do I put it? It was like, okay, everyone hates me and the world fucked me over, then fuck the world. I, through my own accord, will off myself. Yeah. And there was like a power.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. That makes sense to me. And there's a lot of guilt and shame in that. But But do you find that, again, that's the stuff that helps you cut through, that helps you realize that, because you don't come across, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've never come across to me as someone who has struggled with knowing that there was something wrong to be dealt with, which is a very common MPD problem, because that's why they say it's untreatable. We all think we're fine, so why would we go for treatment? But you clearly don't have that limitation. You've been able to figure it out.
Yeah, it was complicated for me because it was like I knew things were wrong. I knew I wasn't happy, but it wasn't like, it was more of like, why am I different? Rather than, oh, well, okay, I said this about myself a lot, that like I'm defective, but I didn't think it was, I knew I was fucked up, but it was so, how do I put it? It was just so not my fault. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, yeah, something's fucked up with me, but it was because of either outside sources or like, I'm just unique. I guess you could say I am different from everybody else.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. So then, the next one is extreme emotional swings, which again, I think that's, where's the emotionally stable narcissist? Where's the emotionally stable ASPD person?
Yeah.
We're all like extreme emotional swings. I feel like the only thing that makes this in this way unique to BPD is the range of stuff it happens to. There's great emotional swings within MPD, but it's very related to the specific MPD issues. Whereas with BPD, I am so emotionally sensitive that it is a pain in my ass day to day.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing that hasn't in any way gone away through therapy. This is as bad today as it was before I started therapy. And it is the most immediately debilitating because I cry so much when I don't want to. Right. Anything and everything can just, I'm sad now and I need to cry. And it becomes crippling when those things extend to like the song that's playing in the supermarket while I'm shopping, or when you're just trying to do, I'm just out buying food and you're playing this song at me that is making me weep as I walk pushing my trolley around. Like it's like immediately debilitating. Like, why are you crying? Like, no reason. I don't want to be. I'm not sad.
See, like that makes me so confident, because like I was always skeptical of this criteria for myself, because I was like, yeah, I'm really emotionally reactive, but usually it's anger. And also a big thing of it is it says rarely more than a few days. I never am in a mood for that long. I've never had a few days where I'm euphoric or whatever.
No.
Like it's very like in the moment. And when I'm the only emotion that really makes me like, that is easily triggered is anger. Like literally sometimes I listen to sad music to try to make myself feel sad for some reason, because I just want to feel that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I need to feel something because it's hard a lot of the times. But yeah, that's a fucking interesting example though, like crying in the supermarket because of a song playing like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't, and to be, it doesn't need to be like a song that means something to me. It can just be something that sounds a bit sad, and that's always been there with me. So just say it's, that song had a bit in a minor key, and that bit makes me cry, and that sort of thing. And it's so frustrating more than anything else. But the flip side of it is that you can get the up bit of it just as easily sometimes. The right kind of stimulation can make you extremely happy and energetic and that kind of thing. So it's no, I hate it. I just fucking hate it. I'll be
Because
perfect.
I'm thinking about, and I never have this, like, because I feel like I experienced that to a certain extent, but like not nearly to the same range. Like, for example, I was at a restaurant and like my buddy works there, and he mentioned that they have like croutons like fucking huge, like this big, and I was like, oh my god, that's the best thing I've ever seen in my life, right? Because I'm viewing it
Yeah.
through that grandiose lens of like, this is, you know, the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I do that a lot, but it's never like, so I don't feel like I ever feel like super euphoric or like completely debilitated by sadness. I'll get into a shame spiral, and that fucks me up
Oh
and
yeah.
like makes me depressed. But like an intense sadness, I'm not super familiar with.
Yeah. And it comes with this feeling of, you know, it's a fake sadness. You know, it's not real.
Not
And
rational, yeah.
people, you know, when you're being asked, why are you crying? Like, I don't know. I'm not sad. I want to stop right now, but I can't. Yeah.
Because the
Hey,
more we talk, the more I'm like, man, I don't have as much BBD shit as I thought.
yeah. No, see, it's reassuring, isn't it? It's reassuring. But let's
I
move on
just
to
want to
chronic.
be.
Go on. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I just said I just want to be a narcissist. That's all I
Yeah.
want.
Yeah. You don't want this, honestly. Chronic feelings of emptiness. For me personally, I've had that one, but it's been a while. It's been a
Oh,
long
really?
while. Yeah, because it sort of comes with that. It's that identity crisis stuff that, like, I don't know who I am, what I want, where I'm going. I am empty. Nothing makes me feel good.
Yeah.
You know, nothing perks you up and gets you going. Nothing spurs you on, and you just there. That's the. It's a feeling that is best describable by a noise rather than words. And again, I don't know. Is there an MPD equivalent? The empty feel? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
do you know
Well,
what?
like,
This is the thing for which MPD is the symptom. This is
yeah.
the cause.
I honestly, like, I literally, so because like it's funny because I'm surprised and like in the DSM-3, I'm pretty sure it did have this as a symptom.
Right.
But I have never met somebody with MPD who doesn't feel chronically empty. I like, for me personally, it feels like I'm like a shell, and like everything else, like I'm like hollow on the inside. And
Mm.
sometimes, like, especially in the face of abandonment, it feels like that emptiness is like almost trying to get out, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like chronic emptiness is something I definitely feel really intensely, almost all the time.
Right.
If I think about it, at least, like if I'm like distracting myself with other things and like I don't really focus on it. But yeah, fucking emptiness fucks me up. I wouldn't say it's debilitating, but it's there.
Yeah. I guess it can be one of the, like, I don't know what comes from. That's not a sentence. Well, I don't know where particular feelings come. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
are they coming from a BPD thing? Are they coming from an MPD thing? Is it similar things? And the feelings of emptiness. Yeah, it's just that it's been a while, but it's like you're just falling into a black hole, just of, I don't know, not sadness, numbness. It's a numbness. Just if you at least felt sadness, that's not emptiness. It's sadness. That's
Yeah.
something else. And the emptiness is just numb.
It's funny too, because how people with BPD describe it compared to NPD is like very distinct. Like I once heard a metaphor for BPD people on their subreddit, and it was like, oh, it's like you're walking through a house and like there's a bunch of rooms in it, but there's also a room that's just like nothing. And you might walk into that, you might not. You have no idea every time you walk into a different room. I don't relate to that at all. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I'm more
Yeah, that
like,
doesn't. Yeah, it did. That one doesn't quite work for me either.
it's just kind of like, again, it makes me feel like I'm a shell. I'm hollow. That's just kind of what I feel, and I think that ties into that I feel fake all the time. Like
Yeah.
everything I do is almost a performance, but that's kind of the extent of it.
Yeah. which leads us to explosive anger, which I think we can all relate to.
Yeah. How is that only a BPD thing? That's
I know, right?
Personality disorder.
If you have BPD, you may struggle with intense anger and a short temper. Oh, again, yeah, only BPD. You may also have trouble controlling yourself once the fuse is lit, yelling, throwing things, or becoming completely consumed by rage. Yeah.
Yeah, no shit. Like, same with all of us. Oh my God. Literally, I went into therapy the first time because, like, I was 16. I was forced into therapy because my anger issues were so bad. Like, it was awful.
Yeah. The times of my BPD rage, though, right? What has differentiated it is it has gone on for days, right?
Ooh, okay.
I feel like my longest one was 4 days, 3 or 4 days, something like that, that I could be on full on rage for as well. I barely sleep, barely eat, just, I've had nights of just walking the streets, just to move and rage at things. And yeah, it can go on for days
Wow.
and days. And whereas the MPD rage is definitely as intense, but generally shorter.
Yes.
And generally directed more at an individual or
Yes.
something like that, whereas the BPD thing, it brings with it some sort of woe is me attitude. Like, I'm raging because I feel I'm being hard done to. I'm not really angry at an external force, more at me. Whereas MPD rage is I'm angry at the external.
So I mentioned this in the MPD video we just made, but like the last time before the most recent time I had a rage episode at somebody, it was blinding. It literally was like, I felt like I was completely out of control and I was just yelling at people, et cetera, et cetera. I literally left wherever the fuck I was at and went to a parking lot and got fucking trashed, just sending like fucking angry texts to everybody I knew. And I go home and like my roommate is like concerned because like I'm fucking stumbling and I'm still drinking. And they're like, how the fuck did you even get home? I had to close one eye to get home, right? Because I had double vision. But the next day there was no rage. It was just like shame that I acted like that. There was a little bit of like a spiral like between shame and rage, but like not really. But there are times that like I struggle to sleep because like I think about something somebody has done to me and I'm like reliving it in my head being like, how dare that piece of shit? And I want to fucking do something about it right then, but I'm like, I'll wait until the morning. I'll figure it out then. But I've never had it for multiple days, and it's always only towards a select few people. It's never like, I'm never looking for excuses to go rage at somebody, I guess.
No, neither am I now, but there have been times. But yeah, no, that one's pretty much cleared up now. I don't rage anymore.
Good.
But yeah, days at a time it was. The last one, right, dissociation. There's nothing in. This is so BPD, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Because this is where they always frame it feeling suspicious or out of touch with reality, and that in no way does it justice. And feeling suspicious isn't a great way of putting it. You basically just live in a state where you're not sure if you're awake or asleep. Like, am I dreaming this or is it really happening?
Yeah, I don't, because dissociation, I do not experience at all. Like the paranoid ideation, yes, but that's almost pervasive, right? I assume everybody's trying to be manipulative. Dissociation, though, maybe I experienced it, but like I never have had a moment where I'm like that I can really identify as dissociating.
No. You'd know. I think it's just weird. It's difficult to describe. Like honestly, just not being sure. Am I dreaming this right now? Is this really happening?
Yeah.
What happens if I behave like it's just a dream? Can I get away with stuff? You can see how this leads on to potential problems in behavior and that kind of thing. Like, if I don't think you're real, I can shout at you and that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I never even considered that like portion of it, like, because I relate that to like almost how like back in the day I used to almost weaponize drinking, where I would use it as an excuse to lash out at somebody.
Yeah.
And then like once it was over, it's like, oh well, I was drunk, sorry, like I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always been of the belief with dissociation, how bad it is depends how it affects you. And I've heard it said there are many different types of dissociation as there are people with BPD. No two of us experience it the same. Mine's weird, and you sort of learn to cope with it. And
Yeah.
so, but it is one of those things, like if you've done it, you know you've done it, because it's a weird one.
Have you, so like, do you experience different kinds of dissociation?
Sometimes it's right. So for me, it's like getting into that state of the world feels very dreamlike. And so you feel somewhat detached from reality, like you've taken a step back from it. And I'm sort of just observing it. And God, it's so hard to put into words because we're describing a feeling that is so unusual and so unique. And so specific to me personally as well. But lots of things set it off. And it's usually environmental when I'm kind of put in a situation where things feel kind of dreamlike. Lighting, especially.
Lighting.
Yeah.
That's fucking
So
fascinating.
yeah, so I do generally have sunglasses with me and that sort of thing, so that if needs be, not just to keep not just to keep the sun out of my eyes, but also change the lighting of the environment that I'm in if I need to, because I found that helps immensely.
That's so interesting. I never even,
Yeah.
because like there's been times that I've been in a mood and I've been like, what if I'm dissociating right now? Maybe that's happening. But like the way that you describe it makes me so confident that that's ever happened.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of these symptoms, I'm like, man, I do not experience them the same way I thought I did. But I still do have significant traits of it. But like, God, I'm like, man, dissociation isn't a thing. The identity stuff is not applied to me, at least in the same way. Inappropriate anger also in a very different way for me.
I think you're good to go on the BPD, to be honest. I think you're, yeah. There's a few things there, but they're very MPD-ish and that sort of thing.
It's like, because like once they tried to diagnose me with both NPD and BPD when I was an inpatient, and I was like, no, like I'm mainly NPD. I think I'm more BPD than like most narcissists would be, but I think it's kind of normal when you have a ClusterB to kind of have traits from all over them.
Yeah, and there are times when, God, even with one disorder, where different traits are at different volumes at different times of the day and that kind of thing. There are definitely times for me when BPD is more in charge and when NPD is more in charge, and it all just depends on when you ask me.
Yeah,
and it goes in ups and downs and that sort of thing. But there's clearly so many things we all share.
I mean, how like because like I've talked a lot about how people with NPD will fluctuate between grandiosity and then vulnerability, because I read a couple studies. One of them showed that there's a nonlinear association between grandiosity and vulnerability. If you're before the 70th percentile of grandiosity, there's like no correlation. But after that, there is a very high correlation. And for me, when I turn to a vulnerable state, I feel like I feel almost like a borderline, honestly. And Kirk Honda actually pointed out something really interesting. When you're in a relationship, when two narcissists are in a relationship, one of them may start taking on more of a borderline role, more of like those traits, because of like how that dynamic works. And that tracks very well with my relationship with somebody with NPD.
Right.
And I also have some ASPD traits that are in remission, but like, I don't know. Those are a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
But
it makes me sorry, go ahead.
I just thought it was very interesting.
So is that, I think that's just come to the end of that then. God, it's go on. Did you have one last thing?
I wanted to point out that in the last video, I brought up movies like completely out of nowhere. I think we should end this one with that too.
Okay.
Okay. How do you feel about the Marvel Universe series?
Okay, right. Okay. I was very excited. I was so into it when it first came out.
Okay.
And they lost me after the last Avengers movie.
Okay.
I have been less up for, what phase are we in now? Is it phase 4 or something that we're currently in? I've been less up for it. The films haven't been as good. I've less into the new characters. And I kind of feel like it's been a lot of years that I've been following it, and I just am like starting to.
You're so disillusioned.
Yeah, I'm starting to fatigue a bit. There's still stuff I like. There's still stuff I watch, but I've started to consume less of it and not consume all of it like I would have done at one point. And I certainly feel like there are adults out there who are far more excited about it all than I am.
Because for me, well, I remember when I was in middle school when the first Avenger movie came out, and people were ecstatic about it. They're like, it's the best movie ever. And I watched it and I was just kind of like, whatever, because I was so focused on like, what is the plot? And to me, it just felt like an action movie. But Thor Ragnarok, I think it was. Mm-hmm. I thought that was the best Marvel movie that has ever come out. I think that every single one should follow that template here on out. I thought that was amazing.
It was a great one. I wish the one they followed it with had followed the same pattern as well, because I didn't get on with the new one. But yeah, Ragnarok was awesome.
Because I feel like just an action movie, there isn't anything to really take from that. It's like, yeah, it's an action movie. It's entertaining. There's nothing special. But when you add the comedy aspect to it, it makes it worth watching. You know what I mean? Yeah,
absolutely. And I don't know where else they would have gone with Thor, because also Chris Hemsworth's really good at the comedy. It's good to let him do it and good to put it in and that sort of thing. It was an interesting way of doing it. And I kind of like that they did that. They need to come up with something going
to
forward,
make it
though.
Out from just action.
Yeah. And because they've reached the point where the action is just it's so predictable, it's so straightforward, it's so annoyingly, and I don't want to complain that there's not enough violence, but it's not. You just watch people pummel each other and throw each other into buildings, and you think nothing's going to happen. They never get injured by this. These invulnerable people are going to do unimaginable things to each other and not hurt each other for ages until one of them goes, "Oh no, you've got me now." Like,
I'm defeated. I give up. Now I'll repent or something.
Yeah, and so I don't know. We'll see how I go with superhero movies going forward.
It actually reminds me. I remember the trailer for it. Even in the movie, there was a joke that Thor made, and it was like, "Oh, Loki turned to a snake, and I love snakes, so I went to it, and then he turned back into him, and then he laughed at me, and then he stabbed me." And I was like, and I was like, relatable with my sister, but funny. Thor Ragnarok, the only Avengers movie that I actually approve significantly. This could be a fucking whole segment on itself. 2 ClusterB talk about movies.
Yeah, I'm so harsh on movies. I'm trying, honestly, not being as harsh on movies is something I am actively trying to do day to day. Because I realized I was that guy that whenever my friend said, "Hey, I saw this movie," I'd go, it's shit that. And that was like my stock response to any movie you're coming to me. I've seen this, and I'm not gonna watch
It's
that.
like, man, I'm so like, I have a sophisticated taste in movies. I don't like those.
Yeah, there's so
Like,
many. Oh, you watch films with those films? Oh dear. Oh,
like I like looking back. It was really funny. I had a conversation with my roommate about it. How I only say good things about movies that are regarded as basically classic. And I'm like, oh shit, that's I see why that's happening. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I love The Shining, Rosemary's Baby, amazing, blah 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 blah. Nothing other than that, though.
yeah. No. Well, it can be. I don't know. I always find it can be difficult to admit that something else is good.
Yeah,
And that which always felt like an MPD thing to me. Like it's do you know what? And especially working in, because I've always done media work,
yeah.
and what you don't want to admit that someone else is good, that someone else has done something.
And when everybody else like loves it, it's so much easier to be like, oh well, I don't like that because everybody else likes it, and I'm above that.
Yeah. The more people who like a thing, the less likely I am to be willing to like that thing. Unless I'm already on it, then everybody else is right like I am, you know,
Yeah.
and then they're just catching up to me at that point. So
when they change their minds based on you, basically.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of a what's another. Oh wait, I actually have a thought. Because you're in your late 30s, right?
I wish. I'm 42. Wait.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't
43. No, I'm 43. That's it. Shit. You reach a point where you forget.
Not look like it. Like I would not guess that. I'd be like late 20s, early 30s is the looking at you.
God bless you, sir. God bless you. Yeah. No, 43. I'm 44 in January.
Jesus Christ. That sounded weird. I didn't mean
no, that's fine. That's fine. I'm convinced that it's not having children that sort of helps you not. My friends who've had children look far older than me. And that's fairness, the only thing.
I've been told I look 30 on multiple occasions. I'm like, I'm fucking sorry, what? I'm 23. Holy shit.
Jesus. Yeah. Oh, to be 23.
Related to that, did you watch Gilligan's Island as a kid?
No, it's never been on TV here.
What?
No, I'm familiar with Gilligan's Island. But no, I've actually never seen an episode of it.
My God. What movie or shows were on were like live when you were a kid?
Live shows when I was a kid.
Well, not live, but like they were like actively being produced.
Well, in what sense do you mean?
Like they were an ongoing series while you were like growing up.
Well, just popular shows of the 80s. I was big into Star Trek.
Oh, Star Trek. I loved Star Trek. My dad was obsessed with like media. So like I watched like all of the stuff that was a little bit past my time.
That stuff. Knight Rider, Transformers, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Oh yeah, that was another one.
Oh,
I just typed
yes,
in
I love
popular shows of the 80s. Quantum Leap, Buck Rogers,
well,
The Incredible Hulk, MacGyver. Masters
I
of
know
the Universe.
I know about MacGyver, obviously. Never watched it though.
I've seen a surprising amount of MacGyver. Magnum PI, Thundercats.
Thundercats I knew of.
All kinds of stuff, really. The 80s were awesome. And then the 90s were even more awesome. And then it kind of went downhill after that.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Oh, that's so funny.
The 90s was peak human civilization, and it's just been a bit shitty after that. Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking funny. Yeah, like you started listing those off, and I was like, whoa, I don't know any of those. Fucking
Wow. Yeah, got so many family ties, different strokes. No. This, yeah.
that's fucking funny. I love that. But all right, I think it is time to wrap it up.
Yes, it is. Thank you for oh right, we're still doing a video, aren't we? So yeah, that was the thing that we did. So go over to the Nameless Narcissist channel and check out the other video that we did and watch this one and follow us both on Twitter. Do you have a Twitter? What's your Twitter handle?
I do have a Twitter now. I just changed because originally it was the rake __ because I love the term rake because it's like, oh, I am sophisticated and also sexually deviant, I guess. But I changed it to TN. What was it? TN Narcissist, I want to say. I would have to look at it if I'm being honest. Go to my video and look at it in the description. It's there.
Yeah, go over to the channel. There's links on it and stuff like that, and follow because we'll probably do some live streams and stuff. So
yeah,
follow us on social media.
Yeah,
so
be,
you see when
be prepared for a live
coming.
stream at some point. 100%.
Absolutely. I have a Twitter, but I don't think anyone reads it, so it doesn't matter. And it's at barking, which is a fucking awesome handle for Twitter. One word, barking. Amazing. And people think I am Barking Town Council or Barking Football Club because Barking's a place in London. And I get so many tweets about when am I playing whatever team? It's like, never. Read the bio.
The fact that you got the barking handle is fucking amazing to me. Like I just tried to like put in like the Nameless or something, and it was like, nope, fuck that.
Oh, it was total accident. I typed in the username early morning barking, and it came out with at barking, and that was a massive score. So yeah, so there you go, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.